Chapter 1452. The moment he broke the record, Lin Jun clearly sensed that the record had been broken by a ruler. The previous record for a ruler's breakthrough had been 220 million. When Lin Jun broke through this number, the universe's origin energy in the sky surged, forming a stream of energy above Lin Jun. However, it didn't descend. As Lin Jun was breaking through, he stared at the universe's origin energy several times. He'd already received 3 blessings from the universe's origin energy. Each time, Lin Jun had received a significant boost in power. If it weren't for the universe's origin energy, his talent wouldn't have been so heaven-defying. In less than 100,000 years, he'd reached the ruler realm. However, the universe's origin energy from those 3 times wasn't as much as this one. After all, this was the most important breakthrough for a ruler. The universe's origin energy in the sky was a dense mass of primal chaos energy. It wasn't ordinary primal chaos energy, but rather primal chaos energy from when the heavens had first been created. It was similar to the primal chaos energy in Lin Jun's Green Lotus universe, but there were also many differences. After all, they belonged to 2 different universes. However, for some reason, the universe's origin energy refused to descend. Could it be because of the new universe in my body that it can't be recognized by this universe? Lin Jun could only guess. He still needed to break through. The primal chaos divine crystal fused with Lin Jun's spiritual sea. Divine power continued to surge out, breaking through. 230 million, 235 million, 240 million. After this number, the growth slowed down. Lin Jun now knew how much divine power his new divine crystal contained. 100 million. This divine crystal contained 100 million units of divine power, twice as much as other divine crystals. This number was already enormous. Many ordinary rulers, even if they became rulers, wouldn't have 100 million units of divine power. However, Lin Jun's situation was different. His enemies weren't ordinary rulers. They were special rulers, vicious beasts, and even peak rulers. 240 million units of divine power was high, but it wasn't enough. If Lin Jun was given enough time to cultivate until he reached the peak of the ruler realm, he would definitely be able to dominate the world. However, there were only a few years left until the final primal chaos disturbance. Seeing that the increase in divine power was about to stop, Lin Jun was a little anxious. He looked up and saw the chaotic aura of the universe's origin still tumbling in the sky. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Since it wasn't willing to come down, why not just swallow it? I'm a black old beast, haha. I've gotten so used to living as a human that I've almost forgotten about this. My nature is to devour everything. At this point, there was nothing that Lin Jun didn't dare to do. His body shook, and the black hole beast true body appeared. After becoming a sovereign, Lin Jun's body expanded tremendously. It was over 1,000 kilometers long and over 600 kilometers tall. Opening its huge mouth, a black hole spiraled out and bloomed in space. The black hole's target was the universe's origin. Just as Lin Jun thought, the universe's origin power came because of Lin Jun breaking the record, but it stopped because of Lin Jun's new universe's power. Unexpectedly, Lin Jun directly swallowed it. Facing the death ripples that surpassed the speed of light, even the universe's origin power couldn't avoid it and was swallowed by Lin Jun. A surge of power once again surged out of Lin Jun's body. With the origin power as a guide, open up my new universe. Be born. Under Lin Jun's guidance, the universe's origin power directly connected with the new universe's energy in the primal chaos Green Lotus. Lin Jun's new universe, which had matured long ago, seemed to have obtained a key and was opened at this moment. Heaven and earth shook. Under the impact of the new universe's power, the continent under Lin Jun's feet was torn apart and turned into dust. One had to know that this continent hadn't been damaged by the Juggernaut's battles for many years. Now it was shattered. It was clear how great the impact of the new universe's power was. Lin Jun's black hole beast body was tempered by the new universe's power. Every muscle, bone, bloodline, and cell in his body was greatly strengthened. The toughness of his scales reached the level of that mystical dragon. Even his supreme equipment would have a hard time harming him. Roar! Roar! The surging divine power caused Lin Jun to let out a few consecutive roars. The nearby, uninhabited planet shattered under his roar, unable to withstand the impact of the terrifying sound waves. His godly power, which was about to stop at 245 million, soared again. 350 million. After the two universes' powers clashed, the evolved power increased by more than 100 million godly power, allowing Lin Jun to reach such a terrifying level. Lin Jun had seen the Jade Buddha Juggernaut before. The Jade Buddha Juggernaut's godly power definitely couldn't reach 300 million. That was already a perfected Juggernaut. If he met this person again, even if he still had the strength from before, Lin Jun could crush him with one hand. This was the terror of absolute power. At this level, Lin Jun couldn't imagine who could pose a threat to him. Perhaps Lone Star's teacher was also very strong, but how strong? He probably wasn't stronger than the current him. The giant claws waved a few times in the air, causing the space to crack. This was just a casual attack, but it was already so powerful. It was clear how terrifying Lin Jun was now. My strength has almost reached the peak. If I want to improve further, I'll have to become a perfected Juggernaut. If there's any room for improvement, it's only level 9 life gene strengthening and the last of the 3 Juggernauts battle skills that I created, Wither. Level 9 life gene strengthening was the strengthening of a Juggernaut. Lin Jun hadn't tried it yet. As for Wither, Lin Jun hadn't grasped the true essence of it. That move had already surpassed perfected Juggernaut's battle skills. The black hole beast body shook a few times, and Lin Jun transformed into his human form. A treasure-seeking vine wriggled over like a small, chaotic snake. This wasn't an ordinary vine, but rather a Juggernaut-level plant life form. Although Lin Jun didn't care too much about it, it had indeed helped Lin Jun many times. He put away the treasure-seeking vine, and his body flickered with a faint light before vanishing. The new universe in his body had already been established, and it was currently in the process of being established. The chaotic waves were constantly spreading, but it seemed like it would still be a long time before the universe was truly formed. Looking at the universe with the eyes of a Juggernaut gave him a completely different feeling. The stars and all living things seemed more intimate. It was a mysterious feeling that could only be understood but not described. Lin Jun felt a little emotional. Just as he was about to say something, he vaguely heard a voice in his mind. Perhaps he didn't hear anything, but that sudden warning, as well as the urgent feeling of being needed, was so real. This is telepathy. Only Juggernauts have this? Who's calling me? It's making me feel so uneasy. Lin Jun closed his eyes and silently sensed the person calling him. Not good. Phoner. Suddenly opening his eyes, Lin Jun instinctively rushed in the direction of the voice. That voice was coming from a place millions of light years away. It was so far away. Could he make it in time? Space-time positioning. Universe power. Chapter 1453. Space-time positioning. This was Lin Jun's unique skill. Only when one's understanding of time and space had reached an extremely high level and possessed a different power from this universe could he do this. It could be said that no one else was like Lin Jun, who had so many harsh conditions at the same time. With the power of the new universe and the old universe gathered in one person, he could go anywhere he wanted to go. The exact principle was that Lin Jun could find a location in the old universe according to the coordinates of the new universe and go very far in an instant. For example, 1,000,000 light years now, a distance that would take 1,000,000 years to walk, he could reach it in a second. All of a sudden, Lin Jun left from the dark light world and directly arrived at an unknown starry sky place. But Lin Jun only took a glance and knew where this place was. Tianzi's Great Nebula, an intermediate civilized country. He recited the entire universe. The universe was in his heart. There was no place that Lin Jun did not know. Once again, he used space-time positioning and went out 1,000,000 light years away. 5 seconds, 5 times in a row, Lin Jun was already close to the target he wanted to reach. Beast King Prison. I'm finally here. Teleporting again, Lin Jun had already appeared near the call of the voice, only less than 100 kilometers away. Here, Lin Jun had already seen the situation. In the distance, the coiling snake formation that filled the sky trapped a dim red light. That was the fire light emitted from the little phoenix's body, which was now very dim, proving that the master's condition was very bad. And a meandering big snake is opening its bloody mouth, wanting to swallow the little phoenix. Seeing his wife in trouble, Lin Jun was furious. With a stomp on the ground, the entire continent seemed to shake, and a huge pit appeared where he stepped. Like a nuclear explosion, such a huge explosive force pushed Lin Jun to the front of the coiling snake formation. The dense snake formation could not stop Lin Jun's footsteps at all, and was torn apart like paper. In less than a second, Lin Jun had already arrived in front of the snake that wanted to swallow Feng Qingwan. Who dares? Ugh! Seeing that someone was disrupting its meal, the giant snake flew into a rage. It suddenly turned around, but Lin Jun grabbed it by the neck. As a unique Dominator-level vicious beast, the greed snake was practically unrivaled. Apart from the three-peak Dominator-level vicious beasts, it had never feared anyone. But the human in front of him was so strong that greed felt like a baby. The other party's hand was like a pair of iron pincers, firmly clamping down on its weak spot. An inconceivable and strange force lifted it up. The greedy snake was caught, and the small phoenix was exposed. Seeing how weak the little phoenix was, Lin Jun's heart ached. He raised his hand, and a primal chaos aura wrapped around the little phoenix, protecting her and allowing her to watch over her for the time being. Looking at the twisting snake in his hand, Lin Jun simply swung his arm. Bastard, lie down. Holding the snake like a whip, he viciously whipped it onto the ground. With a boom, the ground shook, and the 1,000-meter-long snake smashed a deep trench in the ground. The greed snake was dizzy from the fall, and its mind was muddled. It could only try its best to twist its body to escape. It couldn't imagine how this human could be so strong. It should know that it was a unique Dominator-level vicious beast, one of the top 10 existences in the universe. Yet, it was being used like a rope. Lin Jun didn't care so much. He didn't care if it was a unique Dominator or not. He swung it around and whipped it. The long whip danced, and the surrounding snakes were beaten into a bloody mess. It had to be said that a unique Dominator-level vicious beast was very useful as a weapon. Whipping it was very satisfying. The mountain collapsed, and the ground caved in. This greed snake was probably the most pitiful unique Dominator in history. Its bones were all disjointed. At first, it was still struggling, but later, it didn't even have the ability to struggle. By the time Lin Jun whipped it a few thousand times and killed all the vicious beasts around it, the greed snake couldn't move at all. It was hanging there on its last breath. Don't try to play dead. I know you're still alive. Lin Jun raised the greed snake in front of him, looked at it, and pulled it over to the little phoenix. He hugged the little phoenix. Fenger, it's been hard on you. This snake tried to hurt you, so I'll let it compensate you for the rest of its life. It'll be your spirit beast mount forever, okay? In Lin Jun's arms, a teardrop fell from little phoenix's eyes. There really were miracles in this world. She called out in her heart, and Lin Jun actually felt it. Moreover, he was flying over from afar. At the critical moment of life and death, she finally returned to the embrace of her lover. This strong woman couldn't help but cry. Lin Jun took out a small bell. This was one of the 9 palace purple gold bells. The 9 palace purple gold bells could lock up 9 vicious beasts. It had already locked up a dragon. Lin Jun prepared the second bell to lock up the greed snake. In any case, it was a unique Dominator-level vicious beast. Its strength couldn't be wasted. He hung the bell around the greed snake's neck and sent in his divine power. The greed snake was completely locked up. In the future, as long as Lin Jun didn't take off the bell for it, the greed snake would never take it off of its own accord. After being locked up by the bell, the greed snake quickly opened its eyes. Because its thoughts were active with its master, it didn't dare play dead. Remember, protect your mistress well. If you slack off in the slightest, I'll skin you alive and make you into a stew. The greed snake's huge head nodded. It spoke in human language. Master, don't worry. The greed snake will protect master and mistress with its life. Linja nodded and put the greed snake down. It had already changed from a vicious enemy to a loyal subordinate. There was no need to care about it. The greed snake landed and immediately slithered away. It was on guard in the surroundings, preventing its former clansmen from coming over to cause trouble. Lin Jun, on the other hand, injected a warm divine power into the little phoenix. Coupled with the healing of the light and water elements, with his current strength, the little phoenix's strength was rapidly recovering. In less than 10 minutes, the little phoenix was back to normal. The phoenix's body circled in the air. When it landed, it had already turned into a beautiful woman in red. Husband. Lin Jun hugged his wife, who threw herself into his arms. His heart was filled with warmth. However, the little phoenix quickly came out of Lin Jun's arms and urgently said to Lin Jun, "Husband, quickly go and save Sister Sunflower and the others. They are all trapped in the chaos altar in the underground palace." Feng Qingwan spoke quickly and quickly told Lin Jun everything that happened in the Beast King prison. After hearing the little phoenix, Lin Jun sucked in a breath of cold air. Sure enough, I had my suspicions. I didn't expect it to be Master Lone Star. The little phoenix looked into Lin Jun's eyes. "Husband, he is your master. Can you use force on him?" Chapter 1454. After that, Lin Jun took Feng Qingwan and went straight to the underground palace. Beside them, Greed and Golden Dragon circled left and right. The two sovereign beasts were protecting them. Along the way, whenever they saw Lin Jun didn't even need to do anything. The two sovereign beasts attacked fiercely, instantly killing the beasts. When they reached the entrance of the underground palace, Greed suddenly said to Lin Jun, "Master, I feel a beast of the same level as me here." "Oh, who is it?" "It's a subordinate of Gaochen. It's called Xiongqi. It's a ferocious land beast." Following Greed's instructions, Lin Jun activated his delusion breaker eye and looked in that direction. Sure enough, in a dark corner, a ferocious beast the size of a lion or tiger was crouching there. Lin Jun shot over. Feng Qingwan and the two sovereign beasts followed. Lin Jun didn't give Xiongqi any chance. He raised his hand and used 10,000 Feet Mountain. Now that Lin Jun also had a sovereign domain, he wasn't afraid of the other party's domain suppression. Together with 10,000 Feet Mountain, Xiongqi couldn't resist at all. It was pressed down on all fours. Lin Jun didn't say anything. He didn't need to say anything. He took out a purple gold bell and hung it around Xiongqi's neck. Another special Dominator-level savage beast was tamed and subdued by Lin Jun. With 3 sovereign beasts, the rest of the journey was even easier. On the way to the underground palace, they found another Dragon Clan vicious beast, Heaven Shrouding Winged Dragon. This was Qilong's subordinate, who had also been sent out. However, this fellow had been lazing around in the underground palace and hadn't run out. Lin Jun had discovered him, and this time, Lin Jun didn't even need to take action. The 3 vicious beasts had come together and quickly subdued the pterosaur. Lin Jun went over and hung another purple gold bell, subduing the 4th sovereign beast. With these fellows around, the ferocious beasts they encountered along the way were considered unlucky. Even Dominator rank vicious beasts couldn't fight back against them. If it wasn't for Lin Jun being in a hurry, he would have captured other Dominator rank vicious beasts. His heart burned with anxiety as he rushed straight to the altar. Within the primal chaos altar, the discussion between Lone Star Fishing Old Man and the few perfect sovereigns had finally reached a conclusion. The perfected great beasts chose 26 sovereign-level great beasts to be sacrificed to chaos. According to the chaos altar's requirements, 81 sovereigns had to be sacrificed before the chaos beast could be born. 55 beast sovereigns and 26 beast sovereigns made a total of 81. As for who would be chosen to become the chaos beast, it would have to be decided by force. Regardless of whether it was Qilong, Qianxi, or Gaochen, They all felt that they were qualified. Thus, they had to fight, and the one who emerged victorious in the end would become a primal chaos beast. Lone Star didn't participate in this process. He left behind the 3 perfect Dominator-level ferocious beasts to fight it out. The 3 perfect great beasts also didn't fight at the Chaos Altar. Instead, they went to a secret underground chamber. The 26 chosen vicious beasts also entered the Origin Tablet. At this point, the 81 sacrifices had been completed. They only had to wait for the final victor. Lone Star Fishing Old Man was the only one left at the Chaos Altar. He glanced at the sovereigns in the Origin Tablet. These sovereigns had already given up after struggling to no avail. They could only glare hatefully at Lone Star. Lone Star didn't care at all. He laughed and said, "You don't have to look at me like that. This world has always been about the survival of the fittest. I've been preparing for this for far too long. It's only natural that you would be tricked." He took out a disc from his bosom. This was what he'd obtained at the Chaos Altar. It was very large, like a millstone. This was the control panel for opening and closing the Origin Tablet. As long as Lone Star didn't fully open it, the sovereigns in the Origin Tablet wouldn't be able to escape. Furthermore, the true core of the Chaos Altar was on this disc. Lone Star had already obtained the most crucial item. After fiddling with the disc for a while, Lone Star sighed. It won't be easy for 3 consummate sovereigns to decide a result. I'm afraid it'll take at least 2 or 3 years. Lone Star's words weren't without reason. If it were 2 vicious beasts fighting, it would be easy. Perhaps the victor would be decided very quickly. After all, there was only one opponent. Killing the other meant victory. But 3 battles were different. One had to consider the difference in strength. If one attacked one with all their might, even if they killed the other might take the opportunity to attack them. If one didn't consider this carefully, they might end up benefiting the other. If everyone had such considerations, this battle wouldn't be easy. At the beginning, it was very likely that they would maintain a balance and exhaust each other until the right opportunity appeared. Only then would they be able to kill in one strike. They were all consummate sovereigns. It was very normal for this battle of attrition to take a few years. Lone Star didn't want to wait here like an idiot. He arrived above the Chaos Altar, which was under the starry sky. Raising his head to look at the star map in the sky, Lone Star chuckled, "I can feel a powerful aura rushing over here. It seems that my disciple has broken through again. However, no matter how strong you are, it's useless. You won't be able to find me." After saying this, Lone Star's body trembled. A baleful aura appeared out of nowhere. This was a baleful aura that was even stronger than the vicious beasts. He stretched out his arms, and his enormous wings almost covered the entire Chaos Altar. "Heavenly Calamity Lone Star, Chaos Goldenrock. I am Lone Star. I am a part of this universe." Lone Star transformed into a golden rock. He spread his wings and circled in the sky a few times. Then, he transformed into a star and entered the cosmic star map. Not long after Lone Star disappeared, Lin Jun brought Feng Qingwan into the altar. But there was no one here. There were only 55 sovereigns and 26 vicious beasts trapped in the origin plane. Lin Jun hurried over. He saw Sunflower Scar, Ning Qing Xian, the Bai Sisters, and the Black Bumpkin. Everyone was blocked by a layer of light. They couldn't come out. When they saw Lin Jun, they were all very excited. Lin Jun raised his hand and gently patted the light above Sunflower Scar. He didn't dare use too much force. With his current strength, a single hit was enough to break a hole in Beast King Prison. However, even with a light strike, the primal chaos altar began to tremble. Cracks even began to appear, but the light barrier did not shatter. Feng Qingwan quickly stopped him. "Husband, this thing can't be broken with brute force. If you try to break it, the chaos altar will break, and the people inside won't be able to come out." Lin Jun frowned. The altar was one with the light. Unless he broke the altar, he wouldn't be saving people. He would be killing them. Then how do I open this light? The way to open it should be with Lone Star. I just don't know where he went. Lin Jun couldn't speak to Sunflower Scar and the others, but he could write in the air. Sunflower Scar pointed to the sky and wrote a string of words. Lin Jun quickly understood. So did Feng Qingwan. Lone Star Fishing Old Man entered this space. Lin Jun squinted his eyes. This starry sky could actually be entered. Chapter 1455. Seeing Gu Xing enter the star map, Feng Qingwan couldn't help but worry. She leaped up, wanting to rush into the star map. But this place was filled with stars. It was as if there was a thin film between them. She could touch it, but she couldn't pass through it. She tried many times, but to no avail. This made Feng Qingwan a little discouraged. Lin Jun also flew up and searched around the starry sky. He even attacked a few times during this period of time, but in the end, he still landed. There's no entrance at all. This seems to be an illusory world. It's not affected by any attacks. All attacks seem to hit the void. Lin Jun rubbed his chin. This is a little troublesome. How can we go in and find Gu Xing? The two looked at each other, dumbfounded. If they couldn't find Gu Xing, these trapped people couldn't be rescued. That was something Lin Jun couldn't accept. After communicating with Sunflower Scar's handwriting, Lin Jun learned that Lone Star had an item that could remotely control the altar. If that item could replace the altar's function, it would be a disaster. Husband, what should we do? Feng Qingwan was out of ideas. Even a strong woman would turn into a helpless little bird in front of her husband. Lin Jun thought for a moment and said, according to what Sunflower and the others said, the 3 perfect sovereign realm demonic beasts are going to duel. Only by determining the victor among them can the sacrifice be completed. Since that's the case, there's no need for us to be impatient. Lin Jun didn't have a good idea for now, so he stayed in the underground palace with Feng Qingwan. However, Lin Jun didn't stay idle. The 4 beasts were all released. There was only one mission, and that was to capture the stronger beasts for Lin Jun. Since Lin Jun's arrival, the situation in the Beast King prison continent had changed. The beasts were no longer strong, but prey. Lin Jun's hunting team went out every day to capture the beasts for Lin Jun. However, the Beast King prison continent was so big that it wasn't easy to capture them. The ferocious beasts were now running around in fear, so the efficiency of capturing them wasn't high. In the first month, Lin Jun only managed to capture an ordinary sovereign beast. However, Lin Jun didn't use the purple gold bell on this sovereign beast. He simply locked onto its soul. On the 3rd month, Lin Jun finally caught a special dominator rank vicious beast and locked it up with the purple gold bell. Half a year later, they captured an ordinary hegemon and an exalted hegemon. Lin Jun already had 6 beast sovereigns as his subordinates. In a year's time, they once again captured a venerable one and a normal one. However, Lin Jun's golden dragon had died in the process of capturing them. After locking down the exalted sovereigns, Lin Jun still had 6 of them under his command. 2 years later, they had captured yet another unique sovereign and 7 subordinates. 2.5 years later, they captured 3 ordinary sovereigns. In addition to his 7 subordinates, Lin Jun still had 6 ordinary sovereigns. Nearing the 3rd year, he obtained yet another ordinary sovereign. This was a 7-headed Solok sovereign. At this time, there was only one special dominator left. Lin Jun mobilized all of his subordinates and began a large-scale search of the entire Beast King prison continent. It wasn't until the end of the year that they finally captured it. Using the purple gold bell again, Lin Jun now had 8 beast sovereigns under his command, 6 special sovereigns and 2 exalted sovereigns. In addition to the 7 ordinary beast sovereigns and the 26 in the origin tablet, there weren't many beast sovereigns left. Logically speaking, given Lin Jun's current strength, there shouldn't be anyone in the universe who could match him. However, he was still worried. At the end of the year, the 3 exalted sovereigns finally finished their battle. On this day, the underground palace shook, and a burst of wild laughter came from underground. GAGA, I finally won. I'm the final victor. A black light appeared, and a beast sovereign appeared near the primal chaos altar. It was none other than Oddball. Compared to back then, Qilong was already very different. His whole body was covered with scars, all of which were caused by fighting. However, Grievous Snake and Gauchin hadn't come out. They had both been killed by Oddball. After coming out, Oddball looked around with his monstrous eyes. At a glance, he saw Lin Jun. The strange dragon quivered uncontrollably from head to toe, then screamed out, "You bloody human! You actually dare to appear here. This time, you won't be able to leave." Seeing Oddball obtain the final victory, Lin Jun laughed coldly. "I didn't expect it to be you. You actually wanted to become a primal chaos beast. Today, your dream will come to an end. Attack!" Lin Jun definitely wouldn't give Oddball any chance. As long as he dealt with him, his chances of becoming a primal chaos beast would be zero. Perhaps he would be able to survive this impending calamity. 8 powerful beast sovereigns pounced, attacking Oddball as a group. Oddball, who had just won and thought that he could easily become a primal chaos beast, was unlucky. He was fiercely beaten by 8 beast sovereigns. These fellows, who used to be so obedient, were now Lin Jun's lackeys. They showed no mercy. However, Oddball's strength was indeed unexpected. 8 beast sovereigns working together were actually unable to take him down. Instead, he killed 2 beast sovereigns in succession. Seeing this, Lin Jun coldly snorted and descended from the sky. He tossed out the 10,000 feet mountain. His sovereign domain was formed. Oddball's combat power was immediately suppressed by the 10,000 feet mountain by 80%. He was instantly unable to resist the attacks of the remaining beast sovereigns. Lin Jun charged forward, riding on Oddball's neck. He wanted to forcibly suppress him. Oddball struggled with all his might. "You want to enslave me? Dream on. Even if I have to self-destruct, I won't give you the chance." Lin Jun used spells in succession. He wanted to enslave Oddball according to Beast Sovereign Fallen Star's method, but he was unable to succeed. Seeing Oddball actually planning to self-destruct, Lin Jun roared. He raised his hand, and a dragon scale appeared in his hand. He tossed the dragon scale into the distance and said to the surrounding beast sovereigns, "I'll give it to you all to eat." The group of beast sovereigns swarmed over. Oddball, who was about to self-destruct, immediately stopped. He pounced over, wanting to snatch back his dragon scale. Lin Jun seized this opportunity and pounced over again, once again using divine power to suppress. The weight of the 10,000 feet mountain fell from the sky, directly suppressing Oddball until he could not move. Lin Jun took out his soft weapon again. It transformed into a rope, firmly binding him. He arrived in front of Oddball and forcibly placed the purple gold bell on his neck. Divine power erupted. "Bind for me." The purple gold bell flashed with golden light and completely fixed itself on Oddball's neck. The enormous dragon head's expression changed several times. Finally, it submitted under the purple gold bell. Only now did Lin Jun let out a long sigh. "It's finally done." Feng Qingwan cheered and ran over. "Husband, you've succeeded. Now that you've subdued Oddball, there will be no more chaos beasts in this world. The chaos aura is about to become restless. The other beast sovereigns definitely won't have time to reach the peak stage." Lin Jun nodded slightly, a smile on his face. Although subduing Oddball was delightful, solving the problem of the chaos beast was the most delightful thing. As long as there were no peak stage beast sovereigns, this calamity would really be over. But at this moment, the chaos altar suddenly shook. Lin Jun looked back and shouted, "Oh no!" On the chaos altar, someone took advantage of Lin Jun and Oddball's battle to rush in. Huge wings and wingspan. It was clearly a bird. It was Lone Star Fishing Elder. Chapter 1456. Lin Jun suddenly thought of something. The Chaos Altar's sacrifice of 81 sovereigns had already been met, and the person being sacrificed had to be at the peak of the sovereign realm. Now that 2 of the 3 vicious beasts were dead and Mystic Dragon had been subdued, there was no one else who could meet the requirements. Among the various races, the Fallen Star Sovereign was dead, the J Buddha Sovereign's cultivation had fallen, and the Myth Sovereign was nowhere to be found. Only Lone Star met this requirement. Lone Star was a golden-winged great rock, which was also a beast. Lin Jun immediately said to Chris, "Chris, check for me. What types of golden-winged great rock are there?" Chris replied in 3 seconds. "Master, golden-winged great rock is a spirit beast, but there are mutated breeds. They can also become vicious beasts if they are born by absorbing fiendish energy." fiendish energy, Lone Star, heavenly calamity, Lone Star. A thought flashed through Lin Jun's mind, and he was suddenly enlightened. It turned out that Lone Star Fishing Elder was born on a heavenly calamity Lone Star, so he was born with fiendish energy in his body. He was a vicious beast. However, he still had a human bloodline, so he wasn't counted among the 81 vicious beasts of the Beast King prison. It was unknown why his parents had given birth to him there, but various coincidences had allowed Lone Star to have a vicious beast bloodline. Thus, Lone Star also met the requirements to be sacrificed at the Chaos Altar. All of this had probably been planned by Lone Star. Because he was a heavenly calamity Lone Star, he could naturally escape into the universe star chart. And the so-called 3 vicious beasts fighting each other was to buy himself time. Once the victorious vicious beast appeared, it would naturally have to face Lin Jun and the others. At that time, Lone Star Fishing Elder would take the opportunity to enter the Chaos Altar. Lone Star had carefully planned every step, and it was very likely that he had even reached some agreement with the vicious beasts. His ultimate goal was to become a vicious beast of chaos himself. When he thought of these possibilities, Lin Jun couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. What careful thoughts, what a rigorous plan. Now, it seemed that Lone Star's chances of success were very high. Because at this time, the chaos energy in the universe began to stir. The dark matter and chaos chi in the air began to surge and tumble. Under Lin Jun's delusion breaker eye, he could see the air swirling around aimlessly, like waves in the sea. This kind of airflow wouldn't cause any obvious harm to people, but it could mobilize people's aura, making them easily irritable and angry. This was nothing much. After some time, things would get better. But at this moment, Lone Star was breaking through. Lin Jun absolutely could not allow this to happen, not only for the sake of the universe, but also because his family and friends were still being sacrificed in the origin position. Lin Jun could not watch them die. He flew up to the Chaos Altar. The primal Chaos Altar was also covered by a layer of light. Lone Star had just entered when he saw Lin Jun coming over and revealed a sinister smile. A telepathic message was sent directly to Lin Jun's mind. My good disciple, you really didn't let me down. You actually reached this level today. I really didn't expect it. Ha ha. Lin Jun glared at him angrily. Lone Star, get out here, or I'll break this altar. Lone Star curled his lips. What a joke. The primal chaos altar has already been activated. It receives the power of the universe. Even if you reach the peak of the ruler realm, you can forget about destroying it. If you don't believe me, you can try. Lin Jun was still in disbelief. He stabbed the lotus spear at the altar. The spear slashed through, but the altar was unharmed. A feeling of powerlessness made Lin Jun very uncomfortable. It was as if the spear had stabbed into the void. It was completely useless. Lone Star laughed. Lin Jun, oh Lin Jun, it's over. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too outstanding. The speed of your growth is completely beyond my imagination. You're so strong that you can't control yourself. But let me tell you, a disciple will always be a disciple, and a master will always be a master. After I complete the final sacrifice and come out of seclusion, I'll teach you how to be filial to your master. After saying that, Lone Star no longer paid attention to Lin Jun. He closed his eyes and prepared to cultivate. There was a process to the sacrifice, but he didn't know how long it would take. Lin Jun was burning with anxiety. His many attacks were useless. The entire altar was covered in a layer of white light, and the person in the origin position was beginning to fall unconscious. The furious Lin Jun summoned all the ruler beasts, wanting them to attack together. The other ruler beasts attacked together, but Qilong hesitated and said to Lin Jun, Master, this altar can't be destroyed at this time. I experienced it once before. You experienced it? Yes. Last time, when we fought the rulers of the various races, one of them was especially strong. That battle, Lin Jun stopped Qilong's long speech. Get to the point. The point is, that expert was also plotted against. He's now hiding in the depths of the underground palace. I think you should know about this altar. I know where he's hiding, but I don't dare to go there. Master, do you want to go take a look? What? Who are you talking about? Lin Jun was stunned. Qilong's words contained a lot of information. That person is called the Myth Ruler. He also fought with us until the end. He won, but was plotted against by Lone Star. I found his hiding place by chance in the underground palace. He seems to be recuperating there. His injuries are not light. Lin Jun's eyes lit up. Take me there. Qilong didn't dare to hesitate. He said, follow me. He brought Lin Jun into the depths of the underground palace. You all wait here. Lin Jun followed Qilong and went all the way into the depths of the underground palace. One man and one dragon were very fast. In a short time, they reached the depths of the underground palace. After making many turns and passing through many hidden paths, there was even a small hole in the middle. It was only the size of a needle. Lin Jun had to teleport through it. After passing through this small hole, his eyes suddenly opened up. This was a dilapidated cave, thus piled up inside. No one knew how many billions of years it had been since someone came here. When Qilong arrived here, he pointed to the distance and said to Lin Jun, while trembling with fear, Master, behind this stone wall is where that person is hiding. Go and take a look yourself. Lin Jun nodded. He stepped on the dust and walked over step by step. Going around the stone wall, Lin Jun saw a human figure. Because the dust on it was too thick, if one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't even be able to tell that there was a person here. If it wasn't for Lin Jun's mental power reaching the crystal formation realm, he wouldn't be able to sense that there was a person here. The other party's vital signs were too weak. So weak that it could almost be ignored. Medically speaking, this should be a dead person. But Lin Jun knew that he was still alive. Gently raising his hand, a cool breeze blew past, and the dust was scattered. Inside was a man in a white robe with faint bloodstains on his body. He looked to be in his 40s or 50s. His eyes were slightly closed. Lin Jun had seen this person in a lot of information. He was very familiar. Chapter 1457. Lin Jun still had respect for this person whom he had never met, because what he wanted to do today was exactly what the person in front of him had done twice. Compared to him, the likes of Lone Star were nothing but petty people. Bowing slightly to the Myth Dominator, Lin Jun said, Senior, I know you're still alive. I'm in trouble now. Lone Star has entered the Chaos Altar and wants to become a Chaos Beast. I have to stop him, but the altar can't be opened. Please guide me. There was no movement from the Myth Dominator. Lin Jun thought for a moment, Senior, I'm not just doing this for myself. Stopping Lone Star can also save everyone in the universe. There was still no sound. Lin Jun closed his eyes, thought for a moment, and then slowly said, There's another reason. My family is there. I have to save my family. There was still no sound, as if he didn't hear what Lin Jun said at all. But Lin Jun knew that he had heard it, but his words hadn't moved him yet. Lin Jun simply stood up. It seems that Senior is a picky person. Then I won't talk about principles. There are all these reasons, but the most important is that I want to become stronger, so strong that no one can threaten me. And I won't harm the universe. I won't destroy the world. Looking at the current world, there's absolutely no one more suitable than me. Is this reason enough? Before he finished speaking, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. It was a rooftop floating in the sky. There were clouds around, and there was no other scenery. On the rooftop, the Myth Dominator stood there, looking at Lin Jun with a smile. This is the spiritual illusion. Lin Jun couldn't help but be shocked. To be able to take him directly into a spiritual illusion, the strength of the Myth Dominator was simply unimaginable. They were both complete Dominator, but the difference between him and the Jade Buddha was like heaven and earth. The Myth Dominator on the opposite side finally spoke. Lin Jun, I know you. Oh, how does Senior know me? Lin Jun found it unbelievable because the mythical ruler had disappeared after the last chaotic aura. It had been less than 100,000 years since he had appeared, including his rebirth. How could he know? The Myth Dominator smiled and said, A strange person told me. He said that a person called Lin Jun would come here and ask me to give you a test. If you pass the test, then I will give you some benefits. If you fail, then he didn't say, but the result won't be good. Speaking of eccentric people, The first person that came to Lin Jun's mind was the person who had helped him several times. It could only be him. In Lin Jun's heart, that person was omnipotent. After silently thanking the mysterious senior, Lin Jun asked, "Then how do I pass the test?" "Actually, you've already passed the first step. A martial artist has to face his heart and not hide anything. Although the other reasons you said are also correct, if a martial artist doesn't have the strongest heart, then he's not a qualified martial artist. I wouldn't have met you here. As for the second step, that is, you have to defeat me on this rooftop. Only by defeating me will you be qualified." Lin Jun didn't talk nonsense. He raised his hand and took out the lotus spear. "Okay, then let's begin." At this time, the Myth Dominator's body shook and completely turned into another person. He became Lone Star. Your enemy is Lone Star. Back then, I was seriously injured because of Lone Star's plot. My current form is Lone Star's strongest form. You first have to have the strength to defeat Lone Star. After saying that, a fishing rod appeared in the Myth Dominator's hand. Shwa! Without giving Lin Jun a chance to observe, the fishing line directly penetrated the void and instantly arrived in front of Lin Jun. Lone Star's fishing line could indeed travel through time and space. It had once sent the holy angel to the fallen star lake, and the Myth Dominator used Lone Star's method as well. This speed had exceeded the limit of imagination. But just as the silk line was about to penetrate Lin Jun's forehead, a lotus flower suddenly bloomed on Lin Jun's body. A lotus leaf just happened to block the fishing line's attack. The timing was not bad at all. After blocking the Myth Dominator's sudden attack, Lin Jun held the lotus spear and fiercely rushed forward with both hands. "Senior, have a taste of this junior's method. Flower bloom. 8 times superimposed sun wheel seal." This move, even an ordinary perfect dominator would find it difficult to block. But the Myth Dominator sneered. The fishing rod in his hand spun and also used a perfect dominator's battle skill. And it was a 9 times superimposed Aquarius seal. Even Lin Jun hadn't learned this move. The two people's ultimate moves collided head-on. With Lin Jun's current 350 million divine power, he actually didn't have much of an advantage. He only pushed the Myth Dominator back slightly. This made Lin Jun extremely shocked. From this, it could be seen that Lone Star fishing old man's divine power was not lower than 300 million. And with the help of the 9 times superimposed power, he could fight Lin Jun evenly. Good. Let's try this. Brilliant. With this Dominator's battle skill, Lin Jun thought that victory was in his hands. But he didn't expect that the Myth Dominator would also use a battle skill that was about the same level as Lin Jun's. After another collision, although Lin Jun had the advantage, it was still very weak. He could win, but it wasn't an overwhelming advantage. Lin Jun was about to attack again with his spear when the Myth Dominator waved his hand. "Stop here, Lin Jun. You should know that this is Lone Star's level back then." And this time, Lone Star entered the Chaos Altar. "I'm afraid that he has improved a little. With your current strength, you can't really win." Lin Jun was extremely unwilling. He had already cultivated to this level and could be considered invincible. But he still couldn't beat Lone Star in the altar? Then what should he do? Looking at Lin Jun's anxious look, the Myth Dominator opposite him laughed. "Anxious, right? Don't be anxious. This isn't the end. That eccentric gave me something. Take it and use it. Maybe it will help you improve your strength." With that, the spiritual illusion disappeared, and Lin Jun returned to reality. In front of him, the Myth Dominator didn't seem to have moved, but there was something in front of him. Life Gene Medicine. Level 9 Life Gene Medicine. Lin Jun was stunned. He didn't complete Level 9 Strengthening, mainly because he didn't have the time. He came immediately after reaching this level, and he hadn't thought about what medicine to use at this level, because there was no such medicine for sale in the universe. Because no one could maintain a perfect breakthrough to the Dominator realm, there was no need to develop such a medicine. But there was one here. Lin Jun picked up a small blue bottle in front of him. There was a light blue liquid inside. Although he didn't know what kind of gene it was, there was a strong murderous aura coming from it. Compared to this murderous aura, Lone Star's murderous aura was nothing. "This is?" Lin Jun asked hesitantly. Chapter 1458. Holding the bottle of life gene medicine in his hand, Lin Jun was deep in thought. But after thinking for a moment, Lin Jun raised his head and directly swallowed the life gene medicine. This was a level 9 life gene medicine. After entering his stomach, a fiery aura filled his body. There was no need for guidance, and no one could guide Lin Jun. Even the mythical ruler in front of him probably hadn't completed the cultivation of a level 9 mutated life gene. Lin Jun only needed to completely integrate it into his bloodline. But this process wasn't simple. When the bloodline entered his stomach, the first thing that reacted was the innate fiend death chi. The innate fiend death chi seemed to have been stimulated by something, and with a boom, it expanded. Then, Lin Jun's body uncontrollably transformed into the black hole beast. Originally, his body was covered in black scales, but now they were glowing red. Traces of fiendish aura constantly spurted out from the gaps in his scales and pores. His eyes also began to turn blood red, and the red light made people's hearts palpitate like a demonic beast from hell. On the other side, the mythical ruler, who had his eyes closed like a dead man, also opened his eyes at this time. His eyes were full of shock as he looked at Lin Jun. Lin Jun's black hole beast had actually mutated. Lin Jun was originally a mutated form of the fire Qilin, a black hole beast. Black hole beasts also belonged to a group, but their numbers were very small. At this moment, Lin Jun was a mutated black hole beast. There had never been such a precedent before. If Lin Jun's current situation had to be named, it should be called a mutated black hole beast, because the fiendish aura on his body had become so dense that it couldn't be added. It was as if all the fiendish aura in the universe had gathered on his body. Even the mythical ruler was shocked and nervous. If Lin Jun's situation went out of control, it would be really troublesome. Whether or not Lin Jun could survive now depended on himself. If he could survive, everything would be fine, and Lin Jun's strength would increase because of this. If he couldn't survive, Lin Jun would definitely bring disaster to the world. At this time, Lin Jun was like a chameleon. One moment he was red, and the next moment he was black. The speed at which he changed was so fast that it made people worry that he was about to explode. Although the mythical ruler had never experienced such a thing, he had seen something similar. He could tell that this time, it was not going to be easy. This was because Lin Jun already had a strong, innate baleful death chi. In addition to the current baleful death chi, this kind of chi was so dense that it was solid. It covered his entire body, and it was very likely that Lin Jun would turn into a demon. He even suspected that Lin Jun would turn into a demon within 3 minutes and turn into a peerless beast. That was because a person's willpower would be devoured and destroyed. There was simply no way to resist. Even if a martial artist was a bit stronger, the result would be the same. Even if it was a ruler, they would probably have a mental breakdown within a minute and be invaded by the demonic aura. To say that Lin Jun only took 3 minutes was already an overestimation of him. Myth estimated that he could only hold on for 6 to 7 minutes. 8 minutes was his limit. After all, Myth was the number one in all aspects. Although Lin Jun was outstanding, Myth did not think that he could surpass him. However, Lin Jun was right in front of him. He had held on for 10 minutes and still showed no signs of collapsing. At 9 minutes, Myth was still a little unconvinced. However, seeing that Lin Jun was still holding on after 10 minutes, Myth was finally convinced. He faintly muttered a sentence. Sure enough, there are talents in every generation. My era is over. Lin Jun, that eccentric was right. You are indeed the most outstanding genius in the universe. I can rest assured that I will hand over the matters here to you. Senior, I am convinced. After saying that, Myth stood up. His body that had not moved for countless years made a series of cracking sounds. His joints had already solidified. His bones seemed to have broken when he stood up, but Myth did not care at all. His body shook and transformed. Another huge black hole beast appeared in the cave. Myth dominated Jiangnan. It was said that he was a human. However, he also had the bloodline of the black hole beast, just like Lin Jun. According to the historical records of the universe, there had been signs of the appearance of the black hole beast. In fact, the first black hole beast in the universe was myth. Lin Jun was the second. This was also the reason why Lin Jun was noticed by that eccentric. Mythology's last sentence, "I'm convinced," was clearly not meant for Lin Jun, but for that strange person. When he stood up, a voice sounded in his mind. "Jiangnan, have you thought it through?" "Senior, I have. Back then, I did not want to give up. I did not want to admit that there was someone in this world who could surpass me. However, what you said proved me wrong. Then, let's follow our original plan." "All right, but I have to remind you that this trip will be a new journey of nirvana. From now on, there will be no more myth domination in Jiangnan." Myth domination laughed. "It's okay. A new life is a new beginning. I've stayed here long enough with this broken body. It's time to change my life. When the time comes, please take care of me. Go. Finish everything you want to do as soon as possible." "Understood." After Myth finished speaking, he took another look at this world. Then his body leaped up and transformed in the air. His figure gradually faded and became a blurry shadow. He pounced on Lin Jun, who was still fighting against the demonic aura. In an instant, the two black hole beasts, one virtual and one real, merged. Lin Jun, who was desperately resisting the invasion of the demonic aura, immediately felt a huge surge of majestic power. That was not inferior to his divine power at all. Moreover, there was a huge amount of memory. More importantly, this was the aura of the black hole beast. In an instant, Lin Jun understood everything. This was the myth domination in Jiangnan. He was imparting his lifetime's power to him. Although Lin Jun did not want it, he had no room to resist at all. The voice of the myth domination sounded in his mind. "Lin Jun, don't think about anything. Now listen to me. If you want to destroy the chaos altar, you must go to the starry sky above and find the location of the 7 stars. Now, I will say the names of the stars. Try to remember them. I don't know if you can find them in a short time. This is a very difficult thing. They are Huayun, Leaping Dragon, Heavenly Demon." The myth domination said the names and approximate locations of the 7 stars. He also said the way to enter the starry sky. This method was actually very simple. There was a first-rate bright star in the sky. As long as the light of the bright star was covered, and then one's own light turned into the same as the first-rate bright star, one could pretend to be a star and escape into the sky. These things, the myth domination said very quickly. When he finished, the myth domination said, "Lin Jun, I have been here for countless years, just to wait for a fated person. After I leave, you will be the only black hole beast in this universe. My power will help you resist the demonic aura. In fact, I was plotted against by Lone Star because of the demonic aura. I couldn't resist it and let him succeed. Now, my mission has been completed. Everything here is handed over to you. Lin Jun, goodbye." As this sentence ended, a huge amount of divine power surged like a tsunami, making Lin Jun's divine power soar again. The mythical dominator, Jiangnan, had completely disappeared. Chapter 1459. In the universe, there was basically no such thing as power imparting. It was impossible to impart power to different races. Even if they were of the same race, it was basically impossible. After all, there were differences between people. There were no identical individuals in the world. Even the slightest difference could be fatal. However, Lin Jun and Jiangnan could do it. Because both of them were black hole beasts, the only 2 black hole beasts in the universe. What was the innate characteristic of black hole beasts? It was devouring. They could devour and absorb. People of different races couldn't absorb power, but people of the same race could. This was also one of the innate characteristics of black hole beasts. Therefore, Lin Jun could absorb Jiangnan's power. This was a special case. This power was so strong that it was difficult to describe. It wasn't that much of an increase in godly power was brought to Lin Jun. Lin Jun's godly power had already reached a very high number. There wasn't much room for improvement. As for a perfected ruler, he had to slowly cultivate, digest, and absorb it. 350 million godly power, after receiving Jiangnan's inheritance, only reached 400 million. The most important thing wasn't the increase in godly power, But this power directly helped Lin Jun withstand the invasion of the demonic aura. Although Lin Jun felt that he could withstand this process without external help, he didn't dare to guarantee it. With the help of Jiangnan's godly power, the demonic aura finally retreated like the tide. Lin Jun let out a long breath. A black aura. When he opened his eyes again, he was still in his black hole beast form. But it was completely different. He was a mutated black hole beast. His body had changed greatly. His body didn't become bigger. Instead, it shrunk. It was only the size of an ordinary bison. However, the density of his body had reached an unimaginable level. If one were to weigh him, Lin Jun's weight would be comparable to a small galaxy. The black scales on the surface were now red. It wasn't bright red, but a dark red with an ancient and mysterious aura. Lin Jun didn't need to test it. He knew how tough his scales were. Not to mention a top-grade equipment. Even a supreme equipment would have a hard time damaging it. It was even harder than the scales of a mystical dragon. His mane fluttered in the wind, and his eyes glowed with a dark red light. No one should stare directly into Lin Jun's eyes, or else they might sink into them and have a mental breakdown. Inside those eyes was a sea of stars. Their sharp claws and fangs were comparable to supreme equipment. Lin Jun's talent was already at the standard of chaos beasts. It was just that his realm hadn't reached that level yet, but everything else was already on par with it. The biggest change Lin Jun had undergone after fusing with the 9th grade genes was his body. Standing up and shaking his head, Lin Jun transformed into his human form. He returned to his human form and looked normal again. At that moment, Lin Jun's mind had sealed most of the myth ruler's memories. That person's memories were too vast. Even if Lin Jun wanted to learn how to organize them, it would be a long process. This was a rich treasure trove. He would have to slowly explore it in the future. He didn't have that time now. What Lin Jun needed to do now was to follow the myth ruler's instructions and go to the star chart to find the 7 stars. Once the 7 stars were broken, the chaos altar's shield could be shaken. The myth ruler didn't think that Lin Jun could really complete these tasks. Or rather, the chances were very slim. Trying to find the 7 stars in the vast universe was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It was far from enough. But he didn't know that this was very simple for Lin Jun. Teleport. After leaving the ancient, dust-covered cave, the mystical dragon outside saw Lin Jun for the first time. It trembled and its legs went soft. Lin Jun glanced at it. "What's wrong? Are you afraid of me?" No. Master, how should I describe it? When I saw you, I felt like a dog seeing a tiger. There was an instinctive fear. This wasn't there before. Is that so? Then you could transform into a dog from now on. It doesn't look good. The mystical dragon had the form of a mastiff. When it heard Lin Jun's words, it didn't have the slightest resistance. Suddenly, its body shook and turned into a big golden dog. It stuck out its tongue and ran around Lin Jun. It seemed to be quite happy. "Dragon Mastiff, I'll call you Dragon Mastiff from now on. This is the name my daughter gave you." Dragon Mastiff nodded. It seemed to know its master's thoughts. It didn't speak easily. It spread its paws and led the way in front of Lin Jun. Lin Jun followed Dragon Mastiff and soon returned to the Chaos Altar. Feng Qingwan was waiting anxiously. When she saw Lin Jun come back, she immediately greeted him. "Husband, how is it? I'll tell you later. Get ready and help me save people." Feng Qingwan nodded and didn't say much. She led the beasts to get ready. Lin Jun jumped up and went straight to the top. According to the myth ruler, he immediately found a first-rate bright star. With a raise of his hand, the dark divine power spread out and covered the light of the bright star. The light element on his body was released. Lin Jun became a body of light. The brightness of the light instantly reached the level of a first-rate bright star. At this moment, something wonderful happened. Lin Jun turned into a star and merged into the starry sky. Then, the light disappeared. Lin Jun began to look for the 7 stars according to the myth ruler's instructions. If it was someone else, this might take 1,000 or 10,000 years. But Lin Jun did it very quickly, because the whole universe was in his heart. In the blink of an eye, he found a first star. He raised his hand and punched. Explode. The star shattered. He teleported away. After 3 consecutive teleportations, he found the second star and shattered it again. This repeated. Primordial realm, new territories, endless sea of stars, dark light world, constellation sea, beast king prison. In less than 3 minutes, Lin Jun had shattered 7 stars. After shattering 7 stars, Lin Jun felt a faint tremor below. At this moment, the chaos altar changed. The indestructible power that shrouded it had disappeared. Teleporting again, he left the starry sky. Lin Jun came to the chaos altar. At this point, Lonely Star Fishing Old Man's sacrifice was almost complete. Everyone who was sacrificed had fallen into a state of unconsciousness. All their power was transferred to the altar. Lin Jun couldn't care less. He stepped in front of Sunflower Scar and reached out with his hand. The light shield couldn't stop Lin Jun's power. It was broken. Lin Jun grabbed Sunflower Scar. "I'll leave it to you, Feng Air." Handing Sunflower Scar to Feng Qingwan, Lin Jun immediately went to save the next one. Ning Qing Xian, Snow White by Su, Black Country Bumpkin. These people were quickly rescued by Lin Jun. Lin Jun wanted to save the next one. Suddenly, the altar began to tremble. At this moment, Lin Jun didn't need anyone to tell him. He immediately knew that the altar was about to explode because the sacrifice wasn't enough. The Chaos Altar couldn't be destroyed like this. Otherwise, the Beast King prison would explode. The evil aura here would leak out, and the countless galaxies around would be in trouble. Lin Jun gritted his teeth and looked at the few sovereign beasts he had locked onto. Back then, he had locked onto them just in case. Now he had to go up. "You guys go in." The sovereign beasts didn't disobey. They immediately jumped into the origin position and continued the sacrifice. Lin Jun jumped up and went straight to the Chaos Altar. Although the sacrifice couldn't be stopped, he didn't want Lonely Star to succeed. Chapter 1460. He came to the Chaos Altar. There was a layer of light above it. It was indestructible before, but now it was much weaker. Lone Star was inside, but he was no longer in human form. He was in the form of a golden-winged rock. It was not an ordinary golden-winged rock. Lone Star had obviously mutated and was about to evolve into a chaos beast. As the sacrifice could not be stopped, his power kept increasing, and he was about to complete it. Lin Jun reached out and tore open the Chaos Altar's light screen and jumped in. The space in his heart was neither big nor small, about 100 meters in diameter. The golden-winged rock had also shrunk a lot, looking about the size of a fighter jet. When Lin Jun came in, a surge of power was surging into Lone Star's body. He's about to complete it. Lin Jun attacked at lightning speed. Lotus Spear, Brilliant Strike. This spear contained Lin Jun's 400 million godly power, enough to split the heavens and earth apart. But when he was 3 feet away from Lone Star, a layer of white light suddenly blocked Lin Jun's spear. A golden armor appeared out of thin air. The defense of this armor was ridiculously high. Lin Jun's ultimate armament actually could not break through it immediately. The two treasures were in a stalemate for a short period of time, and it was in this short period of time that Lone Star completed his evolution. His feathers were thick and sharp like knives. Long beak, terrifying claws, and a ferocious aura surged into the sky. The Chaos Beast was born. The entire world was shaking. Countless galaxies around were collapsing, as if doomsday had arrived. Some of the smaller, uninhabited planets, such as satellites, were even directly shattered by the impact of the fiendish aura. Many planets could no longer see the moon. People panicked and ran for their lives. But where could they run to? The entire universe felt it at this moment. Those who did not know the truth were fine, but those who knew the truth felt that doomsday had arrived. The Chaos Beast had been born, and in the end, it would devour all life in the universe. Was there any way for them to survive? And those who did not know all wanted to know what was going on. The only person who was still here was Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan even received messages from many people, including some of her former friends, including Ning and Su Mingwei. They wanted to know the truth of the matter and watch how it unfolded. Feng Qingwan couldn't refuse their request, so she simply used the dimensional universe to broadcast this battle live. When Feng Qinghuan's Dimensional Universe live broadcast started, it almost immediately reached the highest number of views in the entire universe. Since ancient times, or even from now on, it was impossible for a video to surpass this record. Almost everyone in the universe with a dimensional universe was watching it. At that moment, everyone knew that the final battle that would decide the fate of the universe had already begun. The two sides of the battle were Lin Jun and Lone Star Fisherman. Many people were very optimistic because of Lin Jun. Lin Jun was a hero of the universe, someone who had created countless miracles. They believed that with him around, they would be safe and sound. As for who Lone Star Fishing Old Man was, many people didn't know, nor did they care. No matter how they looked at it, it was impossible for him to be a match for Lin Jun. However, some higher-ups had different opinions. Lone Star Fishing Old Man was a perfected dominator. Now that he had become a chaotic beast, his strength would definitely surpass the mortal realm and become the most terrifying existence. Moreover, there was another point of view that proved that Lone Star Fishing Old Man was stronger because he was Lin Jun's teacher. If the teacher had broken through, would the disciple still have a chance? These two completely different points of view filled the forums of the entire universe. Almost everyone was discussing this matter. Every second, there were hundreds of billions of posts on various forums, predicting the outcome of this battle. Regardless of the outcome, everyone was terrified. If Lin Jun won this battle, the universe would be stable. If Lin Jun lost, the end of the world would come. Everyone still hoped that Lin Jun would win, even those who didn't like him. When Lin Jun and Lone Star came into contact and were about to fight, everyone almost didn't dare to breathe as they stared at the screen. His huge wings flapped a few times, and Lone Star suddenly opened his eyes. He turned into his human form and waved his hand, and the golden armor returned to his body. He took out his fishing rod again and laughed loudly at Lin Jun. Lin Jun, my good disciple, I'm really lucky to have a disciple like you in this life. Just a few hours ago, even I would be jealous of your achievements. Lin Jun sneered. Why? You're not jealous now? Of course. I've only taught you some cultivation techniques for you to cultivate on your own. I haven't really taught you a real lesson. Then, today, Master will really teach you something. At this time, Lone Star Fishing Old Man was no longer anxious. He pointed at Feng Qinghuan, who was recording a video in the distance. That girl is broadcasting in the dimensional universe, right? I believe that at this time, everyone in the universe is watching. Then, you ordinary people can listen together. Me, Lone Star Fishing Old Man, I was born an inauspicious person. When I was born, I was abandoned on the Lone Star. I don't even know who my parents are. I only know that I have the bloodline of the Golden Rock. Of course, it doesn't matter to me who my parents are. I, who was born strong, survived, and embarked on the path of cultivation. Why am I called Lone Star? Because I'm also a lonely person on a Lone Star. My life, it's all up to me to decide. The suffering and torture I've experienced is unimaginable to you people, and my wisdom and strategy are also beyond your reach. I won't let anyone walk in front of me, no matter who it is. Back then, when the Myth Dominator saved the universe for the first time, I was no match for him, but I helped him from the side and gained his trust. From then on, I endured until the second time, when the aura of chaos was agitated, and I finally got the chance. The Myth Dominator failed to break through the chaos, and I took the opportunity to give him a fatal blow. At this point, Lone Star's face was full of pride. From that day on, I was the real #1 person. Although the Myth Dominator is still ranked above me, he's finished. He has no chance. Actually, you're just a villain. Lin Jun reprimanded. Ha ha, what's a gentleman? What's a villain? Every man for himself. What's wrong with what I've done? Lone Star's face was matter of fact. But defeating the Myth Dominator isn't my ultimate dream, because I know that the highest realm is the chaos, and I was born with the bloodline of a dire beast. It's just that I hid it well enough that no one found out. I also understand that if I don't reach that realm, I won't be able to be truly free. So this time, I've been planning for a long time. Lone Star slowly swayed the fishing rod in his hand. Do you think I won't make a move without fully preparing everything? Those stupid dire beasts in the Beast King prison are nothing but tools for me to use. As for you, Lin Jun, I've been wary of you for a long time. A hint of jealousy appeared on his face. Your rapid growth has also put a lot of pressure on me. In the process of your growth, I've even made a lot of obstacles, but unfortunately, they couldn't stop you from moving forward. So I had to plan ahead. I was even worried that if you saw the Myth Dominator, it might affect my plan. Unfortunately, I couldn't find where the Myth Dominator was hiding, so I could only use the current method. The characteristics of the Chaos Altar are especially important. Once it's destroyed, the surrounding area will suffer. I bet that you didn't have the courage to sacrifice the rook to save the king. Sure enough, as expected, Lin Jun, oh Lin Jun, this is your weakness. If you were more decisive and abandoned the thousands of galaxies around you, wouldn't you have gotten rid of me in one fell swoop? Unfortunately, you didn't. Lin Jun said coldly, "You're vicious enough. You actually ignored the lives of trillions of people and wanted to turn this space into a ghost realm. Ha ha ha. Their lives are nothing. Life is a process that repeats itself. As long as I can succeed, that's more important than anything else." Lin Jun gently rubbed the lotus spear in his hand. "You're really vicious and scheming. You actually managed to endure 3 chaos disturbances to achieve your goal. However, this is a live broadcast in the dimensional universe. If you say this, everyone in the universe will see your true colors. Aren't you afraid? Afraid? Why should I be afraid?" Lone Star looked up and laughed. "Your words are too childish. I might have been afraid in the past, but today, I've already become a chaos beast. Do I still need to be afraid of anyone?" When he said this, Lone Star's eyes were already glowing red. That was a powerful, murderous aura. Due to his emotional fluctuations, it was a manifestation of his body. At this point, who still dares to disobey me? I want him dead. Even you, Lin Jun, will do the same. Lin Jun looked straight at Lone Star. "Do you think you're invincible now?" "Of course. Do you think I'll do something I'm not confident in? Now that I've become a chaos beast, I'm unparalleled in the universe. Even if you, Lin Jun, are at Myth's level, I'll still make you regret it." After saying this, Lone Star raised his hand. The fishing rod in his hand and the golden armor emitted a dazzling light. "Do you see that? This is a supreme weapon. In the first 2 supreme missions in the universe, I completed one, and Myth completed the other. This golden armor is that idiot Myth's. It's the strongest defensive weapon. Together with the offensive fishing rod in my hand, I'm already invincible. You, Lin Jun, haven't reached the chaos realm yet. Why do you have to fight me?" The red light in Lone Star's eyes became more and more intense. Becoming a chaos beast, coupled with the liberation of his emotions, had completely exposed his ferocious nature. Something like human nature was rapidly disappearing from his body. From now on, in this universe, only I am supreme, Lin Jun. Now, I'll use your blood to add some color to my new crown. He stepped forward, crossing the void and arriving in front of Lin Jun. "Let Master teach you. As a disciple, the first thing you need to learn is to be beaten by your master." The fishing rod broke through the void. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Lin Jun. At this moment, Lin Jun had no other choice. Lone Star had revealed everything about him. It was clear he had already let go of everything. No matter what the original situation was, in the world of martial artists, in the final moments, one had to rely on strength to solve problems. With a horizontal lotus spear, Lin Jun's immovable mountain martial intent opened. "Open for me." With an earth-shattering explosion, the master and disciple collided. Chapter 1461. The battle that would decide the fate of the universe began, and this made the hearts of everyone in the universe rise. Everyone hoped that Lin Jun would win, but looking at Lone Star's current state, it seemed that Lin Jun was at a disadvantage. And the facts proved this point. The first collision between the two of them had already determined who was the better one. The fishing rod in Lone Star's hand turned into a long rod and collided head-on with Lin Jun's lotus spear. There was a loud rumble. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Lin Jun staggered several steps back. With every step he took, the ground cracked, forming the shape of a spider web that scattered in all directions. The continent of Beast King Prison showed signs of collapse. One had to know that this continent of Beast King Prison was dozens of times larger than the Milky Way, but it couldn't withstand the aftermath of the battle between the two. From this, it could be seen that Lone Star's divine power was definitely above Lin Jun's. Lin Jun also felt Lone Star's absolute strength through this attack. Lone Star, who had reached the realm of Chaos Beast, definitely had over 500 million divine power, maybe even close to 600 million. The difference of 200 million divine power was enough to determine the outcome and fate of the battle. After Lone Star's attack, he looked up to the sky and laughed. Kiki, Lin Jun, you really did meet that old legend and receive his inheritance. But unfortunately, no matter how much you two struggle, you're no match for me in the Chaos Realm. Today is the day you die. The fishing rod swung again, and a fierce boom. This time, Lin Jun chose to take it head-on. Although Lone Star's attack was very shocking, Lin Jun's body was strong enough to withstand such an attack after going through level 9 life gene fusion. Therefore, Lin Jun was definitely not as weak as imagined, and could continue to fight. Lone Star, you think you've won just like this? You're too naive. Open for me. Under the shaking of the universe, the two clashed again. Lin Jun was still retreating, but there were no signs of abnormalities or being defeated. He was just retreating. Your body's strength is actually so high? Gu Xing was shocked. He attacked 3 times in a row, and each time he was able to force Lin Jun back, but each time he was unable to truly end the battle. This also gave the spectators endless confidence. It seemed that their hero, Lin Jun, will be fine for the time being. Lone Star rolled his eyes and launched his 4th attack. Lin Jun blocked again, but he was still able to block Gu Xing's fierce attacks. However, the hook on the fishing rod suddenly turned and hooked onto Lin Jun's body. The hook wasn't big, but it was extremely sharp. Pooh! His body, which was protected by supreme equipment, was actually pierced by the fish hook. Lone Star raised his hand, and the fish hook immediately pulled out a large piece of flesh. Lin Jun couldn't help but groan. He was injured. Lone Star laughed out loud. You're done for. Do you think you can ignore me just because your body is strong? My supreme equipment can't be used as a simple rod. This little fish hook is a knife that will take your life. With that, Lone Star raised his fishing rod and attacked Lin Jun like a storm. Every attack was a battle technique that was stacked 9 times. This level of attack was even more brilliant than Lin Jun's. Of course, Lin Jun wasn't the type to take a beating passively. Seeing how mysterious Lone Star's weapon was and how it could easily turn, he also launched a fierce counterattack. Lin Jun used everything he had learned in his life. His sharp attacks were enough to destroy the world. However, Lin Jun had to face one thing. That was the golden armor on Lone Star Fishing Old Man. This golden armor was called the Chaotic Golden Armor, and it was the #1 defensive equipment in the world. With this golden armor protecting his body, Lone Star Fishing Old Man wasn't afraid of any of Lin Jun's attacks at all. He only had to raise his fishing rod and unleash his unpredictable attacks to the maximum. But Lin Jun's attacks were always blocked by the golden armor, unable to harm Lone Star in the slightest. Just as Lone Star said, with his golden armor, he himself was already in an invincible position. Lin Jun had no possibility of winning. Not only could it defend against physical attacks, but it could even prevent mental attacks. Even if Lin Jun was at the Grand Completion Crystal Formation realm, it would not work too, because Lone Star similarly reached this realm. This kind of battle was a battle where there was no hope. The more Lone Star fought, the more excited and happy he got. Ha ha! You're finished, you're finished. The entire universe is finished. From now on, my fiendish aura will envelop the entire universe. I want to turn everyone into my slaves. I was born alone, living on a planet alone. What right do you people have to live happily? I want to give you all of my hatred, fear, despair, loneliness. I'll give you all a taste of everything 1,000 times, 10,000 times. This human realm is going to become a ghost realm. Lin Jun, You're no longer a myth. You can't save the universe. Even if a myth still exists, it's also a dead end. Lone Star became crazier and crazier. His fiendish aura filled the air and soared into the sky. His tyranny and strength made everyone in the universe start to despair. And Lin Jun, who was facing Lone Star's stormy attacks, was getting more and more injured. This kind of attack frequency that surpassed the speed of light made it impossible for people to react quickly. That sharp fishing hook was Lin Jun's nightmare. Even the body that he was proud of could not withstand it. Die! Following Lone Star's roar, the fishing line turned into thousands of rays of light and penetrated Lin Jun's body. Countless small holes appeared on Lin Jun's body. This attack was enough to kill. Lin Jun's body flew out backward. He raised his head and looked at the sky. In that instant, time seemed to have paused. Above the sky, there seemed to be a person faintly. That was a young man wearing green and blue clothes. On his face hung a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Lin Jun had never seen him before, but he seemed to have known him long ago. Lin Jun, what do you think life is? Lin Jun was speechless. For a moment, he did not know how to answer. Life is a process. It's a reincarnation. It's a process from birth to death, from nothing to something, and then from something to nothing. No matter where it is, regardless of time and space, people are always discussing the meaning of life, but there will never be a standard answer. However, I think that life needs to have a meaning. The young man raised his hand as if he was plucking a flower from the void. If life is a flower, then your childhood and the process of your growth is a process of blooming until you mature and you reach perfection. A flower bud is fragile and powerless because it's still weak. Many people think that the most important time of a flower is its full bloom because that's the most beautiful and brilliant moment. However, people forget that brilliance can also wither. No matter how brilliant a flower is, it can't resist the power of withering. Why do people die? Why do flowers wither? Everything in this world is born and dies. Nothing is eternal. Where is the source of all this power? Lin Jun, don't forget our agreement. I'm still waiting for you at the intersection of time and space. After saying that, the young man's image became a little blurry. Lin Jun did not know if this person was a figment of his imagination or if he really existed. However, at this moment, his mind thought a question. Who are you? Where are you from? Where's your hometown? My surname is Qin. Where am I from? In the vast universe, there's no home for me. I can only say that the place where my heart is at ease is my hometown. Just call me Qin Haohan. After Qin Haohan finished speaking, he turned around and disappeared. Lin Jun closed his eyes gently as he came to a realization. So that's how it is. People were greedy for the color and beauty of flowers. They thought that flowers were at their best when they were in full bloom and brilliant. However, very few people saw that a power stronger than full bloom was its withering. To be able to wither brilliance and make full bloom wither, this external power was the root of everything. And this power definitely did not originate from the flowers themselves. It was no wonder that he could not find a way to comprehend withering. It turned out that he was walking on the wrong path. The power of withering should not originate from one's body. It should originate from outside the body and not from within. This power originated from the galaxy, from the universe, from everything in this world. It originated from everything that one could see and not see. It originated from everything. As long as one could find that feeling, one could grasp it. Stretching his limbs gently, Lin Jun could clearly feel the power of everything in this world. Lone Star's actions had already threatened the safety of the entire universe. Hence, all life and vitality had a will to resist Lone Star. A person, a dog, a tree, a blade of grass, and even a speck of dust. All these powers were captured by Lin Jun. Everything in this world and the power of the universe began to gather. At this moment, in Lin Jun's eyes, Lone Star was the most brilliant flower. He was in the best years of his life. However, no matter how brilliant it was, it could not withstand the moment of withering. I understand. So the so-called brilliance does not refer to myself, but to my enemy. Only by seeing my enemy as the most brilliant one can I grasp the wither that destroys brilliance. At this moment, it began on Lin Jun's lotus spear. This was the power of withering. Lone Star, all of this had happened in the blink of an eye. Lin Jun had understood everything in the blink of an eye. Just when Lone Star thought it was over, Lin Jun counterattacked. Everything in this world, the universe's firmament, is rejecting you. How can you live? Raising the lotus spear, the dazzling light on, it was like an exploding white dwarf. You came alone, and you should leave alone. There is no place for you in this world. Withering. With a thrust of the spear, the world lost its color and the wind and clouds swept. This was an unavoidable spear that pierced Lone Star's chest directly. A ray of black light passed through his body. Lone Star's attack came to an abrupt halt. His eyeballs bulged out. The almost indestructible number 1 defensive over God artifact in the world, the Chaos Golden Armor, shattered. No matter how strong the defensive equipment was, it could not withstand the final power of withering. Not only did this strike shatter the Chaos Golden Armor, it also caused Lone Star's aura to weaken. What kind of battle skill is this? Although Lin Jun was also seriously injured, his aura rose. It doesn't matter what kind of battle skill it is. Anything that can kill you is the best battle skill. Eve 1. The Chaos Golden Armor on Lone Star's body is shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. There was a huge hole in his chest. But this is not the end. Lin Jun, I will not die. We will meet again in the future. At this point, Lone Star could no longer continue fighting. His injuries were very serious, and he had to find a place to heal. The fishing rod in his hand was flung out, and it turned into a ray of green light. This was the instinctive attack of the Overgod artifact. He wanted to hold Lin Jun back for a moment. As for Lone Star, he stretched out his hands, and his body turned into the true form of the golden-winged rock. Seeing that Lone Star wanted to run, Lin Jun swung his lotus spear and blocked the incoming fishing rod. Do you think you can run away? That's not necessarily true. Do you think I won't leave myself a way out? You won't be able to use that kind of attack a second time. Lin Jun, goodbye. We're not done yet. A golden light flashed before his eyes, and a space-time teleportation gate suddenly opened. Lone Star flapped his wings and instantly flew in, then disappeared in the blink of an eye. If the golden-winged rock wanted to escape, there was still the space-time gate. No one could stop him. Seeing that Lone Star had disappeared, Feng Qingwan panicked. Husband, he ran away. Lin Jun's eyes shone brightly. At this point, he could not let Lone Star escape. But where did Lone Star go? Lin Jun suddenly had a thought. I know where he is. Lin Jun pointed into the distance. That was the end of the Beast King prison continent. There was an uninhabited planet there. It was the Heaven Terminus star. Now that Gu Xing was on the run, the only place he could go was the place where he was born. With a shake of his body, he turned into the black hole beast. Lin Jun used space-time positioning and appeared on the Heaven Terminus star in the next second. This was a baleful aura that connected heaven and earth. If it were an ordinary ruler, they would have gone crazy the moment they entered. Lone Star never dreamed that Lin Jun would chase him here. He thought he was safe, but now he was shocked. What happened to you? How did you find me? How can you be fine? Lin Jun shook the black hole beast's head and chuckled. I forgot to tell you one thing. I'm also a ferocious beast now, and the ferocious chi on my body is above yours. The black hole beast bared its fangs. Lin Jun roared. Lone Star, it's really over this time. Dream on. Lone Star went crazy. He turned into a golden-winged rock and lost all his supreme equipment. He wanted to kill Lin Jun in a melee. Lin Jun did not have the lotus spear at this moment. He faced the enemy in his black hole beast form. A bird and a beast began the final bloody battle on the Heaven Terminus star. There were no moves, no battle techniques, only sharp fangs and claws, only beak attacks. Feathers flew, and flesh was mangled. This battle caused a deafening roar to spread throughout the universe. Feng Qingwan could feel the tremors of the Heaven Terminus star even in the Beast King prison continent. She rode the strange dragon and went straight to the Heaven Terminus star. The strange dragon was also very supportive. It endured the baleful aura and protected Feng Qingwan, allowing her to follow and record. Feng Qingwan only recorded the second half of the battle. In a head-on battle, Lin Jun did not have the upper hand. Lone Star was indeed a chaos, ferocious beast. Most of Lin Jun's withering strike had destroyed his armor. Lone Star's injuries were not fatal. He was just as injured as Lin Jun. After returning to the same starting line, Lin Jun did not have the upper hand, and they did not have any equipment. They relied on their bodies. Lin Jun's body was strong, but the Chaos Beast was even stronger. Lone Star even had the upper hand. Until the last one, Lone Star fell from the sky and wanted to give Lin Jun a fatal blow. But a long sword suddenly pierced through his chest from behind. This was a fatal blow. Lone Star did not have any reaction and was successfully ambushed. Lone Star landed on the ground and looked at the sword in disbelief. That sword slowly turned into liquid and returned to Lin Jun's hand. What is this? Why can't I sense its appearance? Lin Jun put away the soft weapon in his hand and returned to his human form. Arriving in front of Lone Star, Lin Jun said, "It's because he doesn't belong to this world. Master, you've done everything you can. You've even taken into account every single one of my weapons. However, you would never have thought that I would have this. This is what they call man proposes, God disposes." Lin Jun. Master, Lin Jun raised his hand to stop Lone Star. "I already know everything about you. There is nothing to talk about between us. Master, your mistake is that you are too greedy. It is not wrong to pursue the limit of power, but you chose to be unscrupulous and ignored life. You have angered the heavens and the people. The entire universe is rejecting you. If you do not fail, who will?" After that, Lin Jun opened his mouth. A whistling black hole was hovering. This black hole was so terrifying that it could swallow anything. It completely enveloped Lone Star Fishing Old Man. Your unfortunate experience is not a reason for you to impose the fate of others. If there is reincarnation, go and repent your sins. But I think that people like you do not even have the right to enter reincarnation. Lone Star, I will never see you again. The black hole suddenly exploded. Lone Star screamed. He, who had been severely injured, was at the end of his rope. How could he resist Lin Jun's black hole? His body was instantly pulled in and turned into dust in the black hole. From then on, there was no more Lone Star in the world. His body and soul were destroyed. After doing all this, the universe seemed to be silent for a few seconds. Then the entire universe cheered. Lin Jun could clearly see the situation in some nearby galaxies through the delusion breaker eye. There was a planet 6,000 light years away on the left. It was similar to Earth. He casually looked at a city and a building. A family of 3 on the first floor hugged each other and jumped excitedly. A few boys on the second floor raised their glasses and drank to their heart's content. A girl on the third floor lowered her head and cried tears of joy. A single man on the fourth floor hugged his husky and danced. A family on the 5th floor was burning incense and praying to Buddha. Oh, not praying to Buddha. The incense on the incense table was a bronze statue of Lin Jun. An old couple on the 6th floor was chatting like a teenager. They were actually doing something that they loved to do. It was unknown if they were stimulated, but it was very intense. On the 7th floor's rooftop, a group of excited people were setting off fireworks. The fireworks in the sky were unprecedentedly beautiful. Looking around, such scenes could be found everywhere in the universe. Lin Jun raised his hand, and all the fiendish aura on Lone Star was collected by him. This Beast King prison continent shouldn't be so cold. With a thought, stars bloomed one after another. This method came so suddenly. Unknowingly, Lin Jun's realm had broken through. It was not a peak ruler, but a different realm. His new universe was actually stabilizing at this moment. As the master of a universe, Lin Jun actually had the ability to create things at will. Of course, it was not out of thin air. He also needed to gather elements and dust to form a planet instantly. But this method was the creator's. This realm came so suddenly, but so naturally. Turning back, Lin Jun saw Feng Qingwan and his wives who had already woken up. Looking over with his delusion breaker eye, Lin Jun even saw his wives and family waiting in the Fallen Star Lake. They were all excitedly watching the video of the alternate universe. They believed that Lin Jun could see them too. They were waiting for Lin Jun to come home. Peace. Victory. From now on, the world was stable and there was no need to worry. Lin Jun smiled at his wives. Before going home, he had to meet someone. Taking a step forward, Lin Jun had already arrived at the intersection of space and time. There was already someone waiting for him. Seeing Lin Jun arrive, he walked over with a smile. This person was Qin Haohan. Lin Jun was so excited that he wanted to speak. He wanted to thank Qin Haohan for his silent support and help over the years. However, Qin Haohan raised his hand to stop Lin Jun from speaking. Don't mention the words of gratitude first. There are several reasons why I chose you. Firstly, you were tough enough to be reborn from the black hole. Secondly, you stimulated the bloodline of the black hole beast. This is also an essential condition. Previously, Jiangnan was someone I liked, but he was a little lacking. Lin Jun, you were good. After saying that, Qin Haohan stretched his waist and laughed. That's great. Lin Jun, you have finally reached this realm. From now on, this intersection of space and time is no longer lonely. When you have free time, you can come here to visit me because in the entire universe, only we belong to the same level. We can communicate normally and study the magical creation science. Lin Jun also laughed. Since Qin Haohan was so carefree, he didn't say too many words of gratitude. Brother Qin, that's it then. However, I'm still very curious about your background. I have a lot of questions to ask. Qin Haohan patted Lin Jun's shoulder and said, I know you have a lot of questions, but our future is limitless. Life can be reincarnated, and we can all be eternal. I have a lot of time to tell you in detail. Your family is waiting for you to go back and reunite with them. Go quickly, don't let them wait too long. Come back when you're free, and I'll tell you my story. Qin Haohan smiled. That story is very long. When the time comes, I'll set up the Dragon Gate formation for you. Lin Jun finally nodded and suppressed his curiosity. Lin Jun left the intersection of space and time. For the time being, he didn't care about too many questions. His family was still waiting for him. He had promised to attend his daughter's wedding. It was about time. It was time to go back. There were too many blessings in the future. There were so many that he couldn't enjoy them all. Looking back, thinking about the twists and turns of his life, Lin Jun felt like he was in a dream, as if it had been a lifetime. Rebirth, reincarnation, everything seemed to have happened just yesterday. No matter how many hardships and tribulations there were, he had finally made it through. Raising his hands, Lin Jun smiled as he looked at him. Whether it was a martial artist or any profession, happiness was obtained through hard work. Chapter 1462. For the last time, He-Tu went back on his word. He said he would finish the book yesterday, but he was late by an hour. There was indeed a reason for this. This afternoon, my wife's younger brother got into a car accident and was injured by an overturned tractor. His condition was quite serious. He-Tu went to the hospital and was busy with various matters until midnight. When he came back, it was already past 10 o'clock. He only started writing, so he was late. Let's talk about this book. I wrote it for more than a year during the age of universal evolution. It was more than 4 million words, and I finally finished it. During this period, I experienced many things. I was criticized and scolded. Of course, there was also a lot of support. It could be said that I went through both joy and sorrow. However, there were some things that I really had to talk about. When I was writing, my mother fell ill and many of my book friends helped her. Later on, my wife had a problem and was a little anxious and depressed. This also brought me a lot of pressure. In the past 6 months, the number of times I went to the hospital was almost as many as the number of times I went home. I had to support my family by myself. Many times, I really felt that I couldn't handle it. Many of my book friends were really lucky to have you. He-Tu didn't like to say sentimental words because he felt that he was a little pretentious as a man. I'm grateful to all of you. I'll remember it in my heart and repay you with better words. Don't talk nonsense and then not do the actual thing. Towards the end of the book, I was a little tired of writing. Later on, it was a little slow. I'm sorry, everyone. The book was long and there were many loopholes. He felt that he hadn't been honed enough. His writing wasn't refined enough, and the writing wasn't very ideal. However, no matter what, it was over. At least there was a happy ending. It wasn't a bad ending. There might be some small holes that weren't filled in, but it wasn't that important. After the book was over, He might release some side stories from time to time, such as his daughter's wedding. Little tidbits like that. Please continue to pay attention. I've been thinking about the new book for a long time. I'm almost done thinking about it, but I haven't decided on the time to upload it. Recently, there have been so many things that I'm in a terrible fix. Give me some time. He will be back in November at the latest. Good night, my dear. Chapter 1463. Let Haita keep these things in suspense. The new book would naturally explain it. The age of universal evolution added a point. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1464. Students in dire straits would occasionally get a robot training system. Every bit of potential would be developed to the extreme, every bit of strength would be used to the extreme, and every bit of time would be arranged to the most reasonable. The ordinary youth's path to genius was unstoppable. No chess player could beat AlphaGo, and no genius could compare to a robot in cultivation. This was him, Qin Haohan, an extremely calm, extremely rational, handsome, and expressionless man. Black Soil's new book, Mechanical Warrior Sage from the Age of Universal Evolution, has been uploaded. Seeking support. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1465. It was unknown how many people had played the Red Alert game. The content of this book was the story of the protagonist who had the Red Alert system after the arrival of the apocalypse. Because the Red Alert system was substituted into reality, there were many unreasonable places, so He too made some modifications. This could be understood as an upgraded version of Red Alert. More intuitively, this was a story of gathering resources and building a powerful army in the apocalypse. Therefore, regardless of whether you had played the game or not, there was no reading problem. Everyone was welcome to enter the pit to evaluate. The new book Apocalypse Red Alert Commander was uploaded. Please support. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1466. Please bookmark and recommend. Black Earth thanks. Black Earth's new book, Ruler of the Wasteland Insect Swarm, has been released. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1467. The Age of National Evolution, National Awakening. All the Strong Are My Disciples has been released. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1468. Demons and evil spirits were wreaking havoc in the capital. Ghosts and demons were everywhere. The people were in danger, and the capital was in imminent danger. The position of the state preceptor became a volcano, and no one dared to take over. When the old state preceptor was on his deathbed, he passed the position to the head of the four great young masters of the capital, Yin Yang. Everyone thought that the old state preceptor passed the position to Yin Yang because of his good looks. They were all guessing when this hedonistic young master Yin Yang would sacrifice his life for the country. They didn't expect him to be doing so well. It would be better if the state preceptor style wasn't so flashy and made the noble ladies in dying fall head over heels for him. This book is also called the State Preceptor Style Every Day. New book uploaded. Urgently looking for recommendations. The Era of Universal Evolution. Black Soil released a new book. This is the State Preceptor's territory. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update.